All right, so welcome to another slightly controversial video that people have requested that I do for a fair while now. So we're going to be talking about using software and tools for your Amazon KDP business, pursuit, side hustle, hobby, whatever you're using KDP for. Do I think it's worth the time? Do I think it's worth the money? Do I think it's actually a problem? And I'm going to say, spoiler alert here, I do think that there is a problem that exists in this ecosystem of tools and software that we have floating around, all these different things that we can use for Amazon, for publishing books and doing research. I think it's a problem. So inside this video, we're going to be pairing this problem with solutions. Of course, we're not going to rely on theory. We're going to talk about facts and, of course, my honest thoughts on everything as well. So as we go through this, I'm going to give the solutions and talk about factual tools that you can use to give yourself real results, speed up your chances of making sales on Amazon, and of course, reducing the time that you spend going down pointless pursuits, of course, in my opinion. And honestly, pretty much all these tools you can use for free. So on the other side of the coin, we're going to be talking about using paid software and how I think this presents an even bigger problem for people that are buying software but not using it to its most potential. So that's going to be a mega section where we're going to be using the new Fractions app as an example. So that's a first look at this new app as well. But of course, we're going to provide solutions for any type of software that you're using to make sure that you increase your chances of making return on the time and money that you put into applications. And toward the end of the video, we'll talk about the new fraction worksheet generator, which is coming out on the 25th of March. And we'll talk about some pretty unique and exciting bonuses that I'm going to be offering with that as well. So don't miss that section there. So let's take a look at niche research tools. And again, I'll preface this by saying that I'm not against any of this. And I do think that there is a place for some people at some point to use them. It's not that. It's more so a case of the emphasis that people put onto these tools. So niche research tools in particular, when you have a niche research tool, there's plenty of them. I'm not going to name specific ones because there are loads of them. But when they give you a search result for a certain niche or a certain keyword, when there's a number of presented with it, that information is not factual. And we have to go, in my opinion, to make the quickest route to sales is that we have to go with factual information, which of course I'm going to share with you in the next slide. But niche research tools in particular do not present themselves with Amazon's data, which means we're relying on data outside of Amazon. Therefore, in my opinion, it doesn't help you. Now, when it comes to researching niches and keywords, there is a far more reliable way. And I'm someone that has made literal hundreds of thousands of sales on Amazon over the years. And I have never, ever relied on niche research tools. And I can promise you, none of the people making tons of money on Amazon are relying on niche research tools. So we'll look at the solution for these things in the next section, and I'm going to show you step by step how you can do this. But just for now, let's talk about the other types of problem with the software and content creation tools. So specifically content creation tools, someone promotes an app, someone buys the app. What they end up doing is that they don't create enough books. So when it comes to buying any type of content creation software, I am 100% on board with pretty much all the content creation software that exists. If it creates content in niches where it makes sense to speed up the content creation, then it's a win for me, and you probably have a chance of making your investment back and making money from there. The problem that we have is that people do not create enough books when they purchase software. So again, we'll take a look at that. And on the other side of content creation software, people do not target the audience correctly. Now, this is going to pave the way nicely into the bonuses that I'm going to be offering for the fraction worksheet generator. Because what people do, and I've seen this in live chats, I've seen this in the private videos in my Facebook group, and I've seen myself do this as well, is that they don't know how to target the audience correctly that they're trying to go after. And when they do this, the customer sees that and they're not stupid. They know that they're not being targeted, so they don't buy the product. So it's super important that you target your audience correctly when you're using content creation software. And this is not just for the upcoming software, it's for pretty much any software that you create. You have to understand the audience that you're targeting, and you have to use the application for what it is. It's an application. It doesn't do everything for you. You have to actually work with it itself. So again, in the next section, we'll cover this and we'll use real examples because it is incredibly important. Whether you believe it or not, I can promise you it's extremely important. Now, from there, we're going to talk about distracting apps, and I'm specifically talking about apps that give you sales notifications. And I cannot, for the life of me, understand why anyone would ever need an application that dings on their screen when they make a sale. Now, I can only imagine the anxiety that I would feel waiting for sales to come in when I have one of these apps attached to my account. And also, on top of that, there is a vague area as to whether you should actually even have some of these applications attached to your account as well. That's a different issue that I don't know enough about, but I would never attach these apps to my account. If you have them, I recommend you get rid of them because it's a waste of time. So here's the upshot of this section here before we move on to the solutions, is that any software that allows you to create content in niches that have traffic going to it, where it's typically harder to create that content, is going to be worth it if you know how to target the audience, if you know how to create enough books using that software. The other upshot here is that making monthly payments, especially for just niche research tools, is not worth it in my opinion. And here's the thing, as I said at the start of this video, you have to, in my opinion, you have to go in a direction where your time and money is actually going to give you that investment back. So niche research tools, in my opinion, they don't do that. And for example, if you're paying like, I don't know what they cost, $60, $70, $80 a month or whatever it is for niche research software, you're better off using that money that you would be paying per month for creating things like book covers, hiring people to create a nice book cover, or 4 or 5 months down the line using that money that you would have spent on software on a nice new interior for your book, for example, as well. So now that we've ranted about tools and software and what I think is worth it and what I think isn't, now we have to move to a solution to make this worth our time. So in terms of doing niche research, we can use so many different free tools that are actually, in my opinion, far better than using any kind of paid tool. So for example, we can use BSR tools to help us establish the demand that is going to a niche. So I'm going to blow your mind here and do a quick example using our topical niche, which of course is going to be the fraction workbooks. Now you can come onto Amazon, you can download DS Amazon Quick View, or you can download one of the Helium 10 Chrome extensions, which are both 100% free. And you can use these to establish within a few minutes, within a few seconds, if this niche has got traffic going to it. So for example, if we're looking at something that you can create quite quickly, like these type of workbooks, you want to look anywhere under 100,000. If you do that, you pair that with the time that it takes you to make these type of books, you pair that versus the BSR, and you say to yourself, is this worth me getting into? Now, if you have something like a coloring book, for example, that is going to take you longer to create, then you want the BSRs to be lower because it has to be worth your time to get into. So for a book like this, I can use software to create. Anything under, let's say, 200,000 consistently on the first page is going to be worth my time. Now, if it's a coloring book that takes me a month to create, anything under 10,000 or 20,000 consistently on the front page is going to be worth my time. And I kid you not when I say over the thousands and thousands and thousands of sales that I've made over the years, this is the way that I do my niche research. So the one that I recommend is this one here, which is DS Amazon Quick View. You can Google that, download it, and you can use it, and voila, there's your niche research tool. Now you might be asking to yourself, how do I find keywords for the niche that I'm getting into? And again, I'm going to blow your mind with this simple tool, which is called Amazon Search Bar. You start typing what your niche is. So for example, if it's a large print word search, you would go large print, you'd start typing large print word search, and then you go through here and then you pick the niche. Okay, then you do your BSR research from here. So for example, large print word search books for seniors, boom, there's your keyword, and it's come from Amazon's website, not some tool either. There you go, do your research from there using the BSR tool, then you decide if you want to get into that niche or not. So this is quite simple stuff, and you see what I'm saying now by a return on the time and investment that you're making. These free tools, they're one of the best investments that you can make in terms of time and making money. So from there, we're going to talk about historic data tools. We'll just go over this very quickly. Again, you can use Helium 10's Chrome tool for free. So again, we're going to make this super simple. If you're using historic data, you can check out how consistently a book is making sales by using the Helium 10 Chrome extension, which again, like I say, completely free. You can come down, install this extension, come down into the listing, come onto the all-time and the all-time section on the chart here, and you can see the historic data for the BSR. Now, again, tell me, is this information factual or is it not factual? This is factual information. At some point, this book has been all of these BSRs for this period of time, so it's factual. We can look at that and we can say, yes, this book has been selling consistently, therefore it's evergreen. We can sell this book as well, this type of book as well. So again, using the historic data tool, what we can do is to make informed decisions as to when to release our books. Now, this more so pertains to seasonal books. So for example, let's come across and look at this Christmas word search. Now, what we can do, and what a lot of people do wrong when it comes to seasonal books, is they release them way too late. So you can use the historic data tool like this, and you come down, it's the Helium 10 one, like I say, completely free. Come down to the all-time chart here, and what you can do is go back and see when a book starts peaking in sales. And what you'll be able to see for this Christmas one, for example, is that the sales start going down, the BSRs start going down during October. So that says to me that you want to have this type of book ready during October, and you want to release it kind of in the middle of October or at the start of October, so that you can get the traction in the marketplace and then keep hitting these dips every single year. Okay, so as we know, the releasing of your book is important, and you can use this tool to help you release your book at the appropriate time. So let's move on. We're going to talk about Amazon ads just very quickly. Again, it's more factual information to help you make informed decisions. So Amazon ads can provide you with a ton of information regarding the performance of your books. And one of the things that I use Amazon ads for is to help decide whether I'm going to turn off advertising campaigns and carry on just working on a project in general. So we'll take a very quick look at that. So again, I think this is going to be kind of like, it's going to be a big eye-opening moment for a lot of people, because you can use a lot of your advertising data to make informed decisions as to whether you want to keep running a book campaign, a book in general, and how you can actually use that information to create more successful books in future. So for example, what we showcased in the video that I created the other day is that we can use the click-through rate setting on our advertising campaigns to help us understand what book covers are converting best for us. So what you can do is come into your account, click on one of these and add a metric, and you're going to go for the CTR, which is the click-through rate. Now, if your click-through rate is around 0.3%, that is the very low end of what I'd expect to see. Now, 2.16 is a really good click-through rate. If you want to understand fully what click-through rate is, pause the video and watch what is on screen now. But what we can do, and what I showcased in yesterday's video, is that if you have a book that has a good click-through rate, like 2.16%, for example, and you note the layout for that type of book cover, what it means is that customers are seeing the book and they are clicking on it. The cover is attractive. Now, you can use this factual information to go forward when you're creating your series of books and create more books with that same design, that same color, the theme that you've gone for with that book cover, and increase your chances of making sales with the next book cover that you create, if that makes sense. So again, keep using this data here. Now, this is a manual campaign for a book that I've got up there. 105% ACOS is not that good, but what we're looking at is the orders versus the clicks. Now, this is around 1 in 14 to 1 in 15 converting. Look at that and say to yourself, in the niche that you're in, is that going to be a good return? If this is a broad niche, which this book is, for example, is that a good return? It's not very niche specific, so there's a lot of competition, and I'm saying to myself, one order in every sort of 13, 14 or 15 clicks, that's pretty good. So you can look at that. You can use this factor information to keep running this type of advertising campaign. Now, if you're looking at maybe 50 clicks and one sale, then you have to start reassessing whether your book is actually worth continuing or not. Now, I'm going to give you an example from a different type of coloring book that I have that gives me super confidence going forward to keep running more advertising campaigns to my book, okay? Use these metrics to make informed decisions. Now, ACOS looks good. Cost per click looks good. The orders versus the clicks looks good as well. The click-through rate looks good. When all these things line up, it gives me confidence that I can go on and actually continue to run these advertising campaigns for the books that are proven to be doing well. So for this, we're looking at maybe, what is this, 1 in 5, 1 in 6 clicks that are converting into sales. That's fantastic. The click-through rate is fantastic. It means I got the book cover right. It means that it's converting, which means that the pricing is right. It means that the description and the A+ content is right as well. And let's take a look at another metric we can look at, which is the cost cost per click. You've got the cost per click down quite low to 0.49. Again, look at that metric. Are we happy paying 49 cents per click at the moment? Yes, I am. Again, informed decisions based off of factual information. Okay, so that was a bit of a dump of information when it comes to Amazon ads, but I promise in future I will make more specific and slower videos when it comes to Amazon ads. But you understand the point here. We're using this information to make informed decisions. So from there, we're talking about content creation apps. Now, if you have an app that creates content for you in a specific niche, is that factual or not, what it provides for you? The answer is yes. So there's tons and tons of different software that you can use to create content. Obviously, the benefit is that it speeds up the time. You don't have to create these type of pages yourself. There's lots of different types out there. You know the types that I promote. So this is going to lead me on to the main section of this video, which is using software correctly to make the most of your time and to make the most of your money. So this is super important. If you've ever bought any type of software, or if you're thinking about investing in any software, this is super important. So first and foremost, if you buy software, create more books. We spoke about this in the last video. We debunked all this bullshit quality over quantity myth that's been doing the rounds for a long time now. Yes, it's true to some extent, but we still have to make more books to increase our chances of making sales. Now, if you're spending 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, 100, $200 on any type of software, you have to create more books. You cannot rely on creating one book from software. Now, here's one of the big problems when it comes to using software is that people do not have a clue, and I'm going to put myself into this category of people as well. They don't have a clue how to target more audiences and target those audiences correctly when using software. So the reality is when you buy a software, it doesn't do everything for you. It doesn't target all these audiences for you. You have to use the software for what it is, and that is just a tool to create certain pages for your books. You have to then target the audience yourself by making adjustments in those tools. So let's go over to the Fractions app that's coming out. We'll take a look at how we can do that very quickly by making very small adjustments to settings inside of these apps to do so. So let's head into the app, and I think this is the first time anyone's shown off this app, so it's actually quite exciting for me to share with you. But what we're really looking at today is the mistakes that people are making when they buy software and they don't know how to target more audience and therefore create more books using software. So for example, if you're creating these kind of introductory pages here, we're going to use the Fractions as example like this here. Now, this type of page is being created by the software with the one click that you use. It doesn't mean that this is applicable for every type of age group. Now, this is a massive problem that a lot of people, including myself, fall into, is that we just start picking off randomly from these apps. We just start going into them and we start clicking on different things and creating different pages. But what's happening here is that you're just targeting the wrong audience. So here's the great thing. Now, this is how, when you get this right, how you can actually target the correct audience, which increases your chances of making sales and also lends the opportunity to, like I said before, create more books. Now, I am not an early education teacher, so forgive me if I'm incorrect here, but let's say, for example, that this page here is geared toward someone that is in grade 3. So, of course, when we sell the book, we have this information that this is now for grade 3. We target a very specific audience of people that are looking for fractions in grade 3 because we have the perimeters set for this page that applies to students in grade 3, for example. Again, I could be wrong. Now, here's the thing when it comes to targeting the audience incorrectly and not creating enough books. Now, we can create a whole book for targeting grade 3 fractions. Now, what we can do if we're duplicating the page here, if I just quickly clone the pages here. Now, what we can do by simply changing the perimeters, and this is something people get wrong across all types of apps when it comes to targeting the audience. If we change the number ranges that we're targeting here, we can very quickly change the audience that we are targeting as well. Again, you have to forgive me if I get these slightly incorrect. But now, when we change this here, we're targeting a different audience, which means, guess what? Let's say that this is more suitable for children in grade 2. We now have a book that we can create and sell in grade 2. So that's 2 books that we have already. Now, this is the same across other books that people are creating using other software. Now, when it comes to targeting the correct audience, what you have here, for example, is something that is targeted toward people that are looking for large print word searches. So when you're inside your software, what you need to be doing is making sure that the font size for the books that you create is it 16 or 18? I can't remember, whatever the large print size is. So when you get that right, you now correctly target the correct audience. If you go into the software, you reduce the size of if you reduce the amount of rows and columns inside these type of softwares as well, then you start creating a book that is geared toward a younger audience. So again, you can create more books. And like I touched upon in the video the other day, what I should have been doing for my Christmas word search, which is not this one here, is making more books, because it takes no time to create these type of books, right? But just a few simple settings allows you to target a completely new audience and create more books. And again, to use one of my books as an example, if you ever watched the case study that I did for the How to Draw software, amazing software, but I created one book and it was generic. It wasn't geared toward beginners, particularly. It wasn't geared toward any specific type of audience, and the book failed completely because I didn't target people correctly and I didn't create enough books from the software. So this is something that you always have to take into consideration. That's the point I'm getting at. So here's another thing that people get wrong when it comes to using software. What they'll do is that they'll come over, and if I select something that's slightly more appropriate to use for this example. So what they'll do is they'll select one of these type of pages that generates multiple images on the page. Now what they'll do is that they'll load up a page here, they'll regenerate the data like this on the screen, and what they'll end up with is 2 images that are next to each other that look exactly the same. Now when you do this, if I just zoom in so you can see what I mean here, when you do this for these type of books, let's just say it can result in a not particularly good customer experience. So on these apps, you obviously have the ability to regenerate the data, as you can see on screen here. Now, what happens sometimes when people do this is that you end up with 2 images on screen that look exactly the same and that sit next to each other, which doesn't look right and which doesn't suit for a lot of niches. So whether you're doing the word searches or the early education books, it can look kind of weird. And this is what people don't act upon because they haven't learned how to use software correctly. So for example, if we reduce the amount of rows that we're using here, we're obviously going to reduce the amount of possibilities that we have inside this as well. Now, what you run the risk of ending up with, and if you don't act upon this appropriately, is a poor customer experience. So again, a lot of people, when this happens, so for example, we have this and this, which look exactly the same, sitting next to each other, doesn't look exactly right. What a lot of people do is they come to the app and they say, oh, the app doesn't work because it's generated these 2 things next to each other. There are features inside of these apps that prevent this. So we have our sort of global regeneration of the data, which changes all of the pages. Now, what a lot of people don't even know is that you can go into these apps and you can change each one of these individually. So for example, if you don't like what number 3 or number 5 is looking like, you can come over to them, you can right click on them and just go regenerate cell data, and it's going to change just that one specifically. But again, I don't like it because it looks exactly like this one here. So we can do the same. Let's do it on this one. We'll just regenerate the data for that specific equation. And again, this is something that comes down to what is going to be the easiest thing to do that is going to give you the best return. And pleasing your customers is going to give you the best return. So here's the thing, when it comes to recommending software, whether I'm promoting something or not, what I always suggest that people do is that they look at the cost of something and they weigh that up versus the possibilities that can be created from that software. So for example, if you're interested in any of these type of software, you look at it and you say to yourself, like word searches, for example, if you bought word search software, how many books can you create? It's a lot. If you buy fractions, for example, how many books can you create? It's tons. You would then proceed to do your niche research and see if it's worth it for you or not. So this is Fraction Worksheet Generator. That's just a quick look at it. We're going to do a full review when it gets released on the 25th of March. We'll take a look at all the different features, the pricing, the bonuses that I give away with it as well, which again, pretty exciting stuff that I'll talk about in a second. But like I say, the point of this section was to fully understand the point of using software and how you can use software to give yourself the best return on time and money. So with that in mind, for those of you that are interested in using software, specifically the Fraction Worksheet Generator that's coming out very soon, Going to do a full review for that on the 25th of March. So that launch period, as per usual, it's going to be a few days where it ranges from the 25th to the 28th. I'll do the review on the 25th of the software in full. We'll talk about the pricing, the features, and all the details that go into it. Now, the bonus, and I've had to twist some arms to get this, but this bonus is going to be crazy because what we're going to be offering is a live workshop with the app creator himself, Mr. Naranjan Pradhan, the guy that creates all these wonderful apps that you've been using. He managed somehow. I was on a call for the dude with him for like 2 hours the other night, and I was saying to him, a lot of people are buying your app, but a lot of people are having the problems that I've spoken about in this video where they don't know how to use the app to its fullest potential. And we need to know how to target the audiences correctly and make more books. And we're going to be doing a live workshop with me and him so that you can get the best of both worlds. We have his many, 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 many years of experience in early education versus my many years and my many years of experience with publishing. We're going to pair the two together. We're going to give you an absolutely crazy, wild live workshop thing as the bonus here. And I've not fully decided on the bonuses for this yet. And if you know me, you know that I tend to offer more bonuses as the launches go on, and they're pretty crazy. So stay tuned. We're going to have more information on that, but it's going to help you create more books, better books, make more sales. It's going to be absolutely crazy. So that's the 25th of March. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one in just a couple days.